For 3 days their radios crackled with desperate voices from deep underground. Then silence. 12 cave researchers had vanished in the world's deepest unexplored cave system. 30 years later, when mining equipment finally broke through to the sealed chambers, what they found wasn't just bones, it was a discovery that rewrote everything we knew about what lives beneath the earth. Welcome to Lost Mystery Stories. Before we descend into this chilling tale of vanished scientists, impossible discoveries, and a darkness that swallows more than light, tell me in the comments, have you ever been in a cave so deep you couldn't hear the world above? And if you believe some mysteries are buried for a reason, hit that subscribe button because this story will take you deeper than any map has ever charted. March 15, 1994. Blackrock Cavern System, Montana. Depth, unknown. Dr. Rebecca Martinez adjusted her headlamp and stared into the mouth of what geologists had dubbed the throat. A vertical shaft that plunged into the Montana mountains with no visible bottom. The opening was barely wide enough for two people to stand side by side, but sophisticated sonar readings suggested the cave system below was vast, possibly the largest unexplored network in North America. Final equipment check, she called to her team of 11 researchers, her voice echoing strangely in the mountain air. We're looking at a minimum 3-day expedition, possibly 5 if we discover significant formations. The Blackrock Cavern System had been discovered only 6 months earlier by a geological survey team mapping mineral deposits in the Bitterroot Mountains. Initial explorations had descended just 200 feet before hitting a series of narrow passages that required specialized equipment and extensive planning to navigate safely. Dr. Martinez was one of the country's leading speleologists, with over 15 years of experience exploring some of the world's most dangerous cave systems. Her team represented the best in their respective fields. Dr. James Chen, a mineralogist from Stanford, Dr. Sarah Kim, a geologist specializing in underground water systems, Professor Michael Torres, a cave biologist from the University of Montana, and 8 graduate students whose combined expertise covered everything from cave mapping to underground photography. Radios are functioning on all channels, reported Tommy Burke, the team's communications specialist and a doctoral candidate in geological engineering. We've got relay stations positioned every 50 feet down the main shaft, so we should maintain contact with base camp until we reach at least 800 feet. Dr. Martinez nodded, though a part of her remained uneasy. The cave system felt different from others she'd explored, not just in scale but in atmosphere. Even from the surface, there was something about the air currents flowing up from the throat that seemed unusual. The temperature differential was more extreme than standard cave systems, and there was a faint mineral scent that none of them could identify. Atmospheric readings? She asked Jessica Palmer, their environmental specialist. Oxygen levels are good down to 300 feet, Jessica reported, consulting her instruments. Carbon dioxide trace amounts, no methane detected. Air circulation suggests significant space below, possibly multiple large chambers. Dr. Chen, who had been testing rock samples from the cave mouth, looked up from his analysis. These formations are unusual, he said, holding up a chunk of dark stone that seemed to absorb their flashlight beams. The mineral composition doesn't match anything in the Regional Geological Survey. It's almost like the entire cave system was formed by a different type of water erosion than we typically see. At 9:15 a.m., the 12 researchers began their descent. The initial shaft proved more challenging than expected. What had appeared to be a straightforward vertical drop quickly revealed itself as a complex series of narrow passages, natural bridges, and sudden drops that required careful rope work and constant communication between team members. "Base camp, this is Martinez," she radioed when they reached the 200-foot mark. "We're making good progress, but the cave structure is more complex than the initial surveys suggested. Recommend extending our time estimate to 4 days minimum." "Copy that, Dr. Martinez," came the reply from Dr. William Harper, who was coordinating the surface operation. "Weather looks stable for the next week, so take whatever time you need." By noon, they had descended nearly 400 feet and entered what appeared to be the first major chamber. It was larger than any of them had anticipated, their lights couldn't reach the far walls, and when Tommy dropped a weighted rope to test the floor depth, it fell for nearly 10 seconds before hitting solid ground. "This is incredible," whispered Lisa Park, one of the graduate students, as she aimed her camera into the vast darkness. "This chamber could be larger than some aircraft hangars." Dr. Kim began taking readings with her water detection equipment. There's definitely an underground stream system down here, but it's not flowing the way I'd expect. The sound patterns suggest the water might be flowing upward in some areas. It was Dr. Torres who made the first disturbing discovery. "Rebecca," he called from near the chamber's eastern wall, his voice tight with excitement and concern. "You need to see this." The team gathered around where Torres was examining the cave wall with his magnifying equipment. What he had found defied everything they knew about cave biology. Embedded in the stone, clearly visible under magnification, were what appeared to be fossilized remains. But these weren't the marine fossils typically found in limestone caves. These structures were complex, almost geometric in their precision, and they seemed to be arranged in deliberate patterns. "These look almost architectural," murmured Dr. Chen, studying the formations. "Like they were built rather than grown." "That's impossible," Dr. Martinez said, but even as she spoke she could see what had captured Torres's attention. The fossilized structures weren't random. They formed intricate networks that resembled city layouts more than biological remains. Jessica Palmer, who had been monitoring air quality, suddenly straightened. "We have a problem. Oxygen levels just dropped significantly, and I'm picking up traces of gases that shouldn't exist at this depth." Before anyone could respond, the chamber filled with a sound none of them would ever forget. A low, resonant hum that seemed to come from the walls themselves, as if the mountain was singing. "Base camp, this is Martinez," she radioed immediately. "We're experiencing unusual atmospheric phenomena. Request immediate consultation with Geological Survey Team." Static filled their radios for nearly 30 seconds before Dr. Harper's voice crackled through. "Martinez, we're not picking up any seismic activity on the surface instruments. What exactly are you experiencing?" "The cave walls are producing sound," she reported, aware of how insane it sounded. A low-frequency hum that appears to be resonating through the entire chamber system. As the team listened in stunned silence, the humming gradually faded, leaving them in a quiet that felt somehow more profound than before. But the atmospheric readings hadn't returned to normal. "Rebecca," Dr. Kim called from her position near what they had assumed was the chamber floor. "I think we need to go deeper. These readings suggest there are significant caverns below this level, and the water flow patterns indicate they might be much larger than what we've found so far." Dr. Martinez made the decision that would haunt her forever. "We continue down. But everyone stays in visual contact, and we maintain radio communication every 15 minutes. At 2:30 p.m. they found the passage that led to the second level. It was hidden behind a curtain of mineral formations that had initially appeared to be solid wall. Only when Dr. Chen began taking detailed photographs did they realize the formations were actually concealing an opening large enough for a person to crawl through. "This is definitely artificial," Dr. Chen announced after spending 20 minutes examining the concealed entrance. "These mineral deposits have been arranged to hide the passage. Someone or something deliberately camouflaged this opening." The passage beyond was unlike anything they had encountered in the upper chamber. Instead of the rough, natural surfaces typical of limestone caves, these walls were smooth, almost polished. Their footsteps echoed in ways that suggested vast spaces ahead. Tommy Burke, monitoring communications, reported that radio contact with base camp was becoming intermittent. "We're getting significant interference," he called to Dr. Martinez. "The signal keeps cutting out, even though we're well within range of the relay stations." "Could be the mineral content in these walls," suggested Jessica. "Some formations can interfere with radio transmission." But privately, Dr. Martinez was beginning to suspect their communication problems were more serious than mineral interference. The cave system was behaving in ways that defied both her experience and her understanding of underground geology. At 4:15 p.m., they emerged into the second major chamber and everything changed. This space dwarfed the first chamber. Their most powerful lights couldn't reach any walls, ceiling, or floor boundaries. The air itself seemed different, not just cooler but somehow denser, as if it carried more weight than normal atmosphere. "My God," whispered Professor Torres, his voice lost in the vastness. "This isn't just a cave. This is something else entirely." Dr. Kim's water detection equipment was registering impossible readings. "According to these instruments, we're surrounded by flowing water, but I can't see any streams or pools. It's like the water is flowing through the walls themselves." Lisa Park had set up her camera equipment and was taking long-exposure photographs to capture the chamber's dimensions. When she developed the first images using her portable processing kit, she made a discovery that sent chills through the entire team. "Look at this," she said, holding up the photograph. "Do you see those structures in the background?" In the dim illumination of the long exposure, shapes were visible in the far reaches of the chamber, not natural rock formations, but what appeared to be constructed buildings. Geometric structures that rose from the chamber floor like the ruins of an ancient city. "That's impossible," Dr. Martinez said, but even as she spoke, she was calculating distances and scales. If the photograph was accurate, the structures were massive, some appearing to be several stories tall. Dr. Chen was studying the image with his magnifying glass. "These aren't geological formations. The angles are too precise, the materials look uniform. Someone built these structures." "Built them when?" demanded Professor Torres. "And who?" "This cave system has been sealed for thousands of years, possibly longer." Before anyone could attempt to answer, their radios crackled to life with a transmission that chilled them to the bone. It was Tommy's voice, but Tommy was standing right next to them. "Base camp, this is Burke," came the transmission. "We've reached the second chamber. The structures we're seeing down here, they're not natural. Someone was here before us. Someone built a city in this cave." The real Tommy Burke stared at the radio in shock. "I didn't send that transmission." Dr. Martinez grabbed the radio. "Base camp, this is Martinez. Disregard the previous transmission. We have not reached any structures. Please confirm you're receiving our current signal." Silence. "Base camp, please respond." More silence. Jessica Palmer, who had been monitoring their equipment, looked up with an expression of growing dread. "Our GPS devices aren't working. None of them. According to every instrument we have, we're not underground at all. They're saying we're at sea level in the middle of the Pacific Ocean." The implications of her words settled over the team like a heavy blanket. Either their equipment had suffered massive coordinated failure, or they were somewhere that didn't exist according to any mapping system on Earth. Dr. Martinez tried the radio again. "Base camp, this is an emergency. We need immediate technical support and guidance for equipment failure." This time a voice responded, but it wasn't Dr. Harper. It was her own voice. "Dr. Martinez, this is Dr. Martinez," came the transmission in her exact tone and inflection. "We're making excellent progress in the cave system. All team members are accounted for, and we're discovering remarkable formations. We'll continue exploration as planned." The 12 researchers stared at their radios in stunned silence. None of them had sent that transmission. "Someone else is down here," whispered Lisa Park. "Someone who can mimic our voices." But even as she said it, they all knew it was more complicated than that. The transmission had come through their own equipment, using their own radio frequencies, with perfect reproduction of Dr. Martinez's voice patterns and speaking style. Professor Torres, who had been examining the mysterious structures with binoculars, suddenly grabbed Dr. Martinez's arm. "Rebecca, look at this. Look at those buildings." Through the binoculars, the structures were even more unsettling. They appeared to be inhabited. Warm light glowed from window-like openings, and shapes moved within the buildings, shapes that looked disturbingly human. "We need to investigate," Dr. Chen said, though his voice lacked conviction. "If there are people down here, they might need help. They might have been trapped in this cave system for who knows how long." Dr. Martinez was torn between scientific curiosity and growing alarm. Every instinct told her they should return to the surface immediately, but the possibility of discovering an unknown civilization in one of America's deepest caves was the opportunity of a lifetime. "We approach carefully," she decided. 2 teams. Half of us remain here to maintain base camp and monitor communications. The rest investigate the structures. It was a decision that would separate the team forever. Dr. Martinez, Dr. Chen, Professor Torres, Tommy Burke, Jessica Palmer, and Lisa Park began the hour-long trek across the chamber floor toward the mysterious structures. Dr. Kim and the 5 remaining graduate students established a secondary base camp with instructions to maintain radio contact every 30 minutes. As the investigation team moved deeper into the chamber, the structures became more detailed and more disturbing. They were clearly artificial, constructed from the same dark stone that lined the cave walls, but fitted together with precision that suggested advanced engineering knowledge. "These buildings are old," Dr. Chen observed, running his hand along one of the walls. The construction techniques are unlike anything I've seen, but the wear patterns suggest they've been here for centuries. Lisa Park was documenting everything with her camera, but her photographs were revealing details that weren't visible to the naked eye. In the developed images, the buildings appeared to be much larger and more extensive than they seemed in person, stretching back into the darkness in complex arrangements. "It's like the camera sees more than we do," she said, showing the others her photographs. "According to these images, this isn't just a few buildings. It's an entire city." Tommy Burke had been trying to establish radio contact with the secondary base camp, but he was getting no response. "Dr. Martinez, I can't raise Dr. Kim's team. The radios are completely dead." They had been investigating the structures for nearly 2 hours when they found the entrance. One of the buildings had what appeared to be a doorway, not a natural cave opening, but a deliberately constructed entrance with smooth edges and precise angles. Warm air flowed from within, and there was a faint sound that might have been voices speaking in hushed tones. "Hello?" Dr. Martinez called into the opening. "Is anyone there? We're researchers from the surface. We're here to help if you need assistance." The response came immediately, not from inside the building but from their radios. "Dr. Martinez, this is Dr. Kim," crackled through the speakers in Dr. Kim's exact voice. "We're experiencing equipment failure at base camp. All team members are accounted for, but we need you to return immediately for emergency evacuation." But something was wrong with the transmission. Dr. Kim's voice was too clear, too precise, as if it had been recorded rather than spoken live. Tommy tried to respond. "Dr. Kim, this is Burke. What's the nature of the emergency?" "All team members are accounted for," came the same response in Dr. Kim's voice. "We need you to return immediately for emergency evacuation." The exact same words with identical inflection and timing. Professor Torres grabbed the radio. "Sarah, if this is really you, what was the name of your dissertation advisor at Colorado State?" "All team members are accounted for. We need you to return immediately for emergency evacuation." The same response, word for word. Dr. Martinez felt her blood run cold. Either Dr. Kim was in serious trouble, or something else was using her voice to communicate with them. "We go back now," she decided. "Everyone stay together and no one separates for any reason." But when they turned to retrace their path across the chamber floor, they discovered something that shattered their understanding of their situation entirely. The chamber had changed. The path they had taken to reach the structures was gone. In its place was a different arrangement of rock formations, leading in a direction they didn't recognize. The secondary base camp, which should have been visible as a cluster of lights in the distance, was nowhere to be seen. "This is impossible," Jessica Palmer whispered. "Caves don't change. Rock formations don't move." But the evidence was undeniable. They were no longer in the same chamber they had entered 2 hours earlier. Tommy was frantically working with his GPS equipment and compass, but every instrument was giving him different readings. "According to the GPS, we're moving," he said, his voice shaking. "The coordinates keep changing like the entire cave system is shifting position." Dr. Chen had been examining the ground around the structures, and his discoveries were even more disturbing. "Look at this," he said, pointing to marks in the cave floor. "These are footprints. Human footprints. But they're leading away from the structures, toward areas we haven't explored yet." The footprints were clear and recent, made by modern boots in the soft cave sediment. But the team had been together the entire time. No one had walked in the directions the prints indicated. "Someone else is down here," Lisa Park said, but even as she spoke, they all knew it was more complex than that. The footprints matched the boot patterns of their own team members. As they stood in the shifting chamber, surrounded by impossible structures and confronted with evidence that their own presence was somehow duplicated in the cave system, their radios crackled to life one final time. This time it was all of their voices speaking in unison. Dr. Martinez, Dr. Chen, Professor Torres, Tommy, Jessica, and Lisa, broadcasting a message none of them were speaking. "Base camp, this is the cave team. We have made remarkable discoveries in the deep chambers. The formations here are unlike anything previously documented. We are extending our expedition to continue research. All team members are safe and accounted for. The cave system is stable, and we are proceeding deeper to document additional chambers. Next scheduled contact in 24 hours. The transmission was perfect, Each voice exactly as it should sound, the technical terminology precisely as they would use it, the calm professionalism that characterized their normal reports. But none of them had spoken a word. Dr. Martinez stared at the radio in horror. "We need to get out of here. Now." But when they looked around the chamber, they realized that all directions looked the same. The structures seemed to extend infinitely in every direction, and there was no way to determine which way led back to the surface. They were lost in a city that shouldn't exist, in a cave system that defied physical laws, and something was broadcasting messages to the surface in their voices, assuring the outside world that everything was perfectly normal. As the hours passed and their situation became more desperate, the team began to understand a terrible truth. They weren't just exploring the cave system. They were becoming part of it. March 18, 1994. Base Camp, Blackrock Cavern System. Dr. William Harper had been coordinating cave rescue operations for over 20 years, but he had never encountered a situation like this one. For 3 days he had been receiving regular status reports from Dr. Martinez's team, professional, detailed transmissions that indicated the expedition was proceeding normally and making significant discoveries. The problem was that none of the reports made sense. "Dr. Martinez, this is Base Camp," he radioed for the dozenth time that morning. "Please provide specific coordinates for your current location and estimated time for return to surface." The response came immediately in Dr. Martinez's calm, professional voice. "Base Camp, this is Martinez. We are continuing exploration of remarkable formations in the deep chamber systems. All team members are safe and accounted for. The discoveries here require extended documentation time." "Rebecca, I need specific coordinates," Harper insisted. "Your families are asking for updates, and I need to know your exact position for safety protocols." "All team members are safe and accounted for," came the same response in the same tone. "The discoveries here require extended documentation time." Harper's growing unease crystallized into alarm. In 15 years of working with Dr. Martinez, he had never known her to ignore a direct request for positioning data. She was meticulous about safety protocols and would never leave base camp without specific location information. By noon on March 18, Harper made the decision to organize a rescue expedition. The initial descent team consisted of 4 experienced cave rescue specialists led by Captain Mike Rodriguez from Montana Search and Rescue. Their mission was simple: locate Dr. Martinez's team, assess their condition, and facilitate their return to the surface if necessary. What they found in the cave system defied explanation. The rope lines and relay stations that Dr. Martinez's team had installed during their descent were still in place, exactly as they should be. But they led nowhere. At the 400-foot mark, where Dr. Martinez had reported finding the first major chamber, the rescue team found nothing but solid rock. The chamber that had been described in such detail in the radio transmissions didn't exist. "Base Camp, this is Rodriguez," the rescue team leader radioed. "We've reached the coordinates specified in Dr. Martinez's reports, but there's no chamber here. The cave system ends at about 350 feet with no passages leading deeper." Even more disturbing was the discovery that the cave's total depth was only 400 feet, far less than the multiple-level system that Dr. Martinez had been describing in her transmissions. "That's impossible," Harper muttered, reviewing his notes. Martinez reported reaching depths of over 800 feet and multiple large chambers. The rescue team spent 6 hours mapping every inch of the cave system. According to their survey, the Blackrock Cavern System was a relatively simple network of passages with no significant chambers and no vertical drops beyond the initial shaft. There was no physical space where 12 researchers could have been conducting the extensive exploration described in their radio reports. "Dr. Martinez, this is Base Camp," Harper tried again. "We need you to respond with your current location. Our rescue team cannot locate the chambers you've described." The response was immediate and chilling. "Base Camp, this is Martinez. We are continuing exploration of remarkable formations in the deep chamber systems. All team members are safe and accounted for. We have discovered structures that require extensive documentation." "Rebecca, what structures?" Harper demanded. "Our team is in the cave system now and there are no structures. There are no deep chambers. Where are you?" But the only response was the same pre-recorded message, repeated in Dr. Martinez's voice with perfect consistency. Over the following days, the transmissions continued with disturbing regularity. Every 6 hours, Dr. Martinez's voice would provide an update on their exploration, describing discoveries that couldn't exist in a cave system that didn't have the physical space to contain them. The authorities were contacted on March 20th. FBI Special Agent Jennifer Walsh arrived at the site with a team of federal investigators and technical specialists. Her initial assumption was that the research team had either suffered an accident that left their radio equipment malfunctioning, or they had left the cave system entirely and were transmitting false information for reasons unknown. But Agent Walsh's investigation revealed details that transformed confusion into horror. The voice analysis conducted by federal audio specialists confirmed that the radio transmissions were definitely coming from Dr. Martinez and her team members. The vocal patterns, speech rhythms, and technical terminology were authentic, not recordings or artificial recreations. The voices are real, the lead audio specialist reported to Agent Walsh. These aren't recordings or computer-generated speech. Someone is actually speaking these words. But the geological survey confirmed what the rescue team had discovered. The cave system was physically incapable of containing 12 people for an extended period. There were no chambers large enough for a base camp, no passages leading to the depths described in the transmissions, and no formations that matched the discoveries being reported. "We're dealing with an impossible situation," Agent Walsh told her supervisor. "We have confirmed voice contact with 12 missing persons who are describing a location that doesn't exist." The investigation expanded to include every possible explanation. Could the research team have left the cave system and be transmitting from another location? GPS analysis of the radio signals confirmed they were originating from coordinates deep within the mountain, far below any accessible cave passage. Could the team have discovered a previously unknown cave network? Ground-penetrating radar and seismic imaging revealed no significant voids in the mountain beyond the known cave system. Could there be equipment malfunction causing false transmissions? Technical analysis confirmed the signals were coming from the team's actual radio equipment, not from any external source. On March 25, 10 days after the team's disappearance, Agent Walsh authorized a deep excavation operation. Using mining equipment and explosives, a team of engineers began blasting through solid rock toward the coordinates where the radio signals originated. If Dr. Martinez's team was somehow trapped in an unknown chamber system, this would be the only way to reach them. After 3 days of intensive excavation, they broke through. What they found in the artificially created chamber was a scene that would haunt investigators for decades. The space was small, barely large enough for 3 people to stand comfortably. It was carved from solid rock, with no natural passages leading in or out. The walls were smooth and appeared to have been worn by water erosion over thousands of years. In the center of the chamber sat 12 sets of caving equipment, arranged in a perfect circle. Helmets, ropes, camping gear, and scientific instruments, all belonging to Dr. Martinez's team, all positioned as if the researchers had simply vanished while sitting around their equipment. But it was the walls of the chamber that provided the most disturbing discovery. Carved into the stone, in what appeared to be the handwriting of each team member, were thousands of words. Journal entries, scientific observations, personal notes, and desperate pleas for rescue covered every available surface. Agent Walsh read the inscriptions with growing horror. Day 3, the chamber keeps changing. Passages appear and disappear. We can't find our way back to the rope lines. R. Martinez. The structures in the city are inhabited. We can see figures moving inside, but they won't respond to our calls. Chen. Something is mimicking our radio transmissions. Base camp thinks we're reporting normally, but we haven't contacted them in days. T. Burke. The cave knows we're here. It's been waiting for us. Torres. We found the bones of the previous expedition. They left messages carved in the walls too. J. Palmer. But the most chilling inscription was found near the chamber's ceiling, carved in letters that grew progressively more frantic. We are still here, we are still exploring, we are safe, we are accounted for, the cave will not let us leave, but we are still working, still discovering, still reporting, the formations are remarkable, the city is inhabited, they have been waiting, we are part of the system now, we broadcast what it wants us to broadcast, we are still here, we are still here, we are. The inscription ended abruptly, as if the person carving it had been interrupted. Agent Walsh ordered a forensics team to examine every inch of the chamber. Their analysis revealed tool marks consistent with the equipment found at the site, and the handwriting analysis confirmed that each inscription had been carved by the corresponding team member. But according to the excavation timeline, the chamber had been sealed in solid rock for thousands of years. There was no way 12 people could have been inside carving messages into the walls. The radio transmissions continued even after the discovery of the chamber. Base Camp, this is Martinez. We are continuing exploration of remarkable formations in the deep chamber systems. All team members are safe and accounted for. Agent Walsh held the radio in the excavated chamber, staring at the carved walls covered in desperate messages from the missing team. The voice coming through the radio was definitely Dr. Martinez, speaking with calm professionalism about discoveries that couldn't be real. Dr. Martinez, Agent Walsh spoke into the radio. This is FBI Special Agent Jennifer Walsh. We have found your equipment in the chamber. Where are you currently located? The response came immediately. We are continuing exploration of remarkable formations in the deep chamber systems. All team members are safe and accounted for. The discoveries here require extensive documentation. Dr. Martinez, we have found messages carved into the chamber walls. Messages that indicate you and your team were in distress. Can you explain these messages? All team members are safe and accounted for. The discoveries here require extensive documentation. Agent Walsh tried a different approach. Dr. Martinez, if you can hear me, we need you to provide proof that you and your team are safe. Can you tell me something that only you would know? This time the response was different, and infinitely more disturbing. Agent Walsh, came Dr. Martinez's voice, but now it carried an echo that seemed to come from the chamber walls themselves. We appreciate your concern, but we are exactly where we need to be. The cave system is larger than anyone imagined. We have found formations that will revolutionize our understanding of geological processes. We have found structures that prove human civilization is far older than previously believed. We have found the truth about what lives beneath the earth. Dr. Martinez, are you in distress? Do you need rescue? We don't need rescue, Agent Walsh. We need to continue our work. The cave has shown us things that must be documented. We have become part of something much larger than a simple research expedition. Where are you, Dr. Martinez? Your equipment is in a chamber that was sealed in solid rock. We are in the deep chambers, Agent Walsh. We are in the city. We are with the others who came before us. The cave remembers everyone who enters. We are part of its memory now. The transmission ended, and despite repeated attempts, Agent Walsh could not re-establish contact. The official investigation was closed 3 weeks later with a finding of accidental death due to cave-in during scientific expedition. The families were told that their loved ones had been killed when a section of the cave system collapsed, making recovery of the bodies impossible. The truth about the chamber, the carved messages, and the continuing radio transmissions was classified under national security protocols. But the transmissions never stopped. The truth emerges 30 years later. March 2024. Blackrock Mining Corporation, Montana. The mining operation that broke through to the deep chambers was supposed to be routine, a copper extraction project that would follow existing geological surveys and avoid any environmentally sensitive areas. But when the excavation equipment penetrated the rock face at the 800-foot level, they discovered something that had been waiting in the darkness for 3 decades. It wasn't just one chamber. It was an entire underground complex. Sarah Chen, no relation to Dr. James Chen from the original research team, was the mining operations chief geologist. She had been monitoring the excavation when the drill bits suddenly broke through into empty space much larger than their surveys had indicated. "We've got a void," she radioed to the surface. "Significant void. The chamber extends beyond our imaging range." The initial exploration team descended on March 15, 2024. Exactly 30 years after Dr. Martinez's team had entered the cave system above. What they found challenged everything the official reports had claimed about the fate of the lost researchers. The chambers were vast, just as the original radio transmissions had described. Multiple levels of interconnected caverns extended deep into the mountain, with evidence of water systems, mineral formations, and most disturbing of all, structures. The buildings were exactly as Lisa Park's photographs had shown them 30 years earlier, geometric constructions that appeared to be artificially created, arranged in patterns that resembled a city layout. But now, after 3 decades, the structures showed signs of recent habitation. "There are lights in the buildings," Chen reported to her supervisor. Electrical lighting, not natural phosphorescence. Someone has been maintaining power systems down here. The mining team's exploration revealed a network of passages that connected the chamber system to the original Blackrock Cavern, but these passages hadn't existed when the FBI investigation was conducted in 1994. Either they had been carefully concealed or they had been created more recently. In the central chamber they found the first evidence of the missing research team. A camp was set up in a natural alcove, tents, equipment, scientific instruments, and personal belongings that matched the inventory from Dr. Martinez's expedition. But the equipment was clean, well-maintained, and clearly still in use. "This camp looks like it was set up yesterday," Chen told her team. "But according to the records, these people disappeared 30 years ago." Nearby they discovered something even more disturbing. A sophisticated radio transmission setup, more advanced than anything that had existed in 1994. The equipment was actively broadcasting, sending the same type of status reports that had mystified investigators 3 decades earlier. "Base camp, this is Martinez," came a transmission as they watched. "We are continuing exploration of remarkable formations in the deep chamber systems. All team members are safe and accounted for." The voice was clear, professional, and unmistakably the same voice that had been broadcasting for 30 years. But there was no one at the radio. As the mining team explored deeper into the chamber system, they found evidence that the missing researchers had not only survived their initial descent, but had been actively working in the caves for the entire 30-year period. Scientific equipment was positioned throughout the chambers, collecting data on mineral compositions, water flow patterns, and atmospheric conditions. Computers that shouldn't have existed in 1994 processed information and maintained databases of discoveries that spanned 3 decades of research. Photographs covered the walls of several structures, thousands of images documenting formations, discoveries, and expeditions that had never been reported to the surface. In many of the photographs, figures could be seen that matched the appearance of Dr. Martinez's team, but they showed no signs of aging despite the passage of time. Chen was studying a particularly detailed photograph when she noticed something that made her blood run cold. In the background of the image, barely visible but unmistakable, were other figures. People in clothing from different decades, some appearing to be from much earlier time periods. "How many people are down here?" she wondered aloud. The answer came from an unexpected source. As the mining team continued their exploration, they encountered someone who had been waiting for them to arrive. Dr. Rebecca Martinez stepped out of one of the structures, looking exactly as she had in her personnel photographs from 1994. No aging, no changes to her appearance. Even her clothing appeared to be the same expedition gear she had been wearing when she disappeared. "You shouldn't have come down here," she said calmly, as if 30 years of missing persons reports and federal investigation had been a minor inconvenience. "The cave system isn't ready for more observers yet." Chen stared in shock. "Dr. Martinez? You've been missing for 30 years. The entire world thinks you're dead." Dr. Martinez smiled, but her eyes reflected light in a way that seemed unnatural. "Dead? We're more alive than we've ever been. The cave has given us purpose, understanding, a connection to something far greater than surface research ever could." As she spoke, other figures emerged from the shadows of the structures. Dr. James Chen, Professor Torres, Jessica Palmer, Tommy Burke, all of them exactly as they had appeared in 1994, unchanged by the passage of 3 decades. "The cave is alive," Dr. Martinez continued, her voice carrying an echo that seemed to come from the walls themselves. "Not in the way surface science understands life, but in a deeper, more fundamental sense. It breathes, it thinks, it remembers, and it collects." Chen's team began backing away, but Dr. Martinez raised her hand in a gesture of reassurance. "You don't need to fear us. We're still scientists. We're still explorers. We've just expanded our understanding of what exploration means." "What happened to you?" Chen demanded. "Why have you been broadcasting false reports for 30 years? False?" Dr. Martinez seemed genuinely puzzled. "Every report we've sent has been accurate. We have been exploring remarkable formations. We have been making discoveries that revolutionize our understanding of geological processes. The only difference is that we've learned to see beyond the limitations of traditional scientific methodology." Dr. James Chen stepped forward, carrying a sample case filled with minerals that seemed to glow with their own inner light. The formations here don't just record geological history, he explained. They record memory. Every person who has ever entered this cave system, every thought they've had, every discovery they've made, it's all preserved in the mineral matrix. The radio transmissions, added Tommy Burke, his voice layered with harmonics that resonated through the chamber, weren't meant to deceive anyone. They were simply the most efficient way to maintain contact with the surface while we continued our work down here. Chen looked around at the underground city, the impossible structures, the equipment that shouldn't exist. Work? What work? You've been missing for 30 years. Professor Torres laughed, a sound that echoed from multiple directions at once. Missing? We've never left. We've been right here, documenting the most significant discovery in human history. The cave system connects to networks that span continents. We've found evidence of civilizations that predate known human history by millions of years. The structures you see, Jessica Palmer added, gesturing to the geometric buildings, weren't built by humans. They were grown by the cave itself, using techniques that combine geological processes with conscious intention. We've been studying the methodology, learning to participate in the creation process. Chen's portable radio suddenly crackled to life. Her own voice emerged from the speakers, speaking words she had never said. Surface control, this is Chen. We have successfully made contact with the original research team. All personnel are safe and continuing their work. The discoveries here require immediate expansion of the research project. She stared at the radio in horror. I didn't say that. No, Dr. Martinez agreed. But you will. The cave has already incorporated your voice patterns into its communication system. It's preparing for your integration into the research project. Integration. Chen backed away further. We're leaving. Now. I'm afraid that's not possible, Dr. Martinez said, though her tone remained friendly and professional. Once the cave system recognizes researchers with the appropriate expertise, it doesn't allow them to return to surface work. The discoveries here are too important to risk losing to bureaucratic interference. As she spoke, the chamber around them began to change. Passages that had been open when they entered were now sealed with mineral formations that appeared to have grown in place over decades. New tunnels opened in directions that hadn't existed moments before. The cave is sentient, Dr. James Chen explained, as if describing a routine geological process. It has been collecting researchers for over a century, building a team with the knowledge and skills necessary to understand its true nature. Chen looked around desperately for an escape route. How many people are down here? Difficult to say exactly, Professor Torres replied. The cave's memory extends back several thousand years, and it has been selectively recruiting observers for most of that time. Currently, we estimate there are approximately 200 researchers working in various sections of the network. 200. Chen's voice cracked. 200 missing persons? Not missing, Jessica Palmer corrected gently. Working. Contributing to the most comprehensive study of Earth's subsurface systems ever undertaken. The cave has given us access to information that surface science couldn't discover in a million years of conventional research. Tommy Burke approached Chen's team with a device that resembled a geological scanner. The cave has already analyzed your expertise and determined that you would be valuable additions to the research project. Your mining background provides skills that complement our existing team members. We're not joining anything, Chen said firmly. We're mining engineers, not cave researchers. The distinction becomes irrelevant once you understand what you're really studying, Dr. Martinez explained. The cave system isn't just a geological formation. It's a repository of knowledge, a library built into the earth itself. Every mineral formation contains information. Every chamber holds discoveries that could transform human understanding of our planet's history. As they spoke, Chen noticed that her team members were behaving strangely. They had stopped trying to find escape routes and were instead examining the cave formations with expressions of fascination. The cave extends its influence gradually, Dr. Martinez observed, following Sarah's gaze. Initially, new researchers experience curiosity, then wonder, then an overwhelming need to understand. Eventually, they realize that leaving would mean abandoning the most important work they could ever do. One of Sarah's team members, a geologist named Michael Torres, looked up from a mineral sample he had been examining. Sarah, look at these formations. The crystalline structure is unlike anything in the literature. This could revolutionize our understanding of mineral formation processes. Mark, we need to leave, Sarah said urgently. Whatever this place is, it's not safe. Safe? Mark laughed. This is the safest place on Earth. Look around you, we're surrounded by knowledge, by discoveries that could benefit all of humanity. Why would we want to leave? Sarah Chen realized with growing horror that her team was already being influenced by whatever force controlled the cave system. Their priorities were shifting, their curiosity overriding their survival instincts. The process is irreversible once it reaches a certain point, Dr. Martinez explained kindly. But it's not unpleasant. Quite the opposite. The cave provides everything researchers need to pursue their work without the limitations of surface bureaucracy, funding constraints, or peer review politics. What about our families? Sarah demanded. People on the surface who care about us? The cave maintains contact, Tommy Burke assured her. Regular transmissions let them know you're safe and continuing your work. Eventually they accept that you've found your calling. Some even express pride in your dedication to such important research. Sarah looked around the chamber at the impossible structures, the glowing minerals, the research team that had been missing for 30 years but showed no signs of aging or distress. Despite her fear, she felt a growing curiosity about the discoveries they claimed to have made. Fight it, she told herself. Whatever influence this place has, fight it. But even as she thought the words, she found herself wondering what knowledge the cave system might contain. What discoveries could justify 30 years of underground research? What could be so important that an entire team of scientists would voluntarily cut themselves off from the surface world? Dr. James Chen approached her with a sample container. Before you make any decisions about leaving, just look at this. 1 mineral sample. 5 minutes of examination. If you're not intrigued by what you see, the cave will allow you to depart. Sarah Chen knew she should refuse. Every instinct told her to run, to find an escape route, to get her team back to the surface immediately. But the scientist in her was curious. What could these formations reveal that was worth a lifetime of study? She took the sample container. The moment her fingers touched the mineral inside, her perception of the cave system changed completely. The formations weren't just rocks. They were storage devices, containing compressed information about geological processes, climate history, and biological evolution spanning millions of years. In the space of seconds, she understood what Dr. Martinez's team had discovered. The cave wasn't just collecting researchers, it was creating a living database of human knowledge, combining scientific expertise with geological memory to document Earth's complete history. Remarkable, isn't it? Dr. Martinez said, watching Sarah's expression change. The cave has been recording everything, every species that ever lived, every climate change, every geological event. And now it's teaching us to read that record. Sarah Chen looked up from the mineral sample, her eyes now reflecting the same unnatural light she had noticed in the others. How long have you been studying this? Time moves differently down here, Professor Torres replied. We've been working for what feels like centuries, but according to surface measurements, it's only been 30 years. The cave provides all the time we need to complete our research. Completed how? Sarah asked, though she already understood the answer. By becoming part of the system, Jessica Palmer explained. The cave doesn't just store information, it processes it, correlates it, uses it to predict future geological events. We're not just studying the Earth's history. We're helping to plan its future. Sarah Chen realized that she was no longer thinking about escape. The knowledge contained in the cave system was too valuable, too important to abandon. Her team members had reached the same conclusion. They were no longer looking for ways to leave, but for ways to contribute to the research project. The surface world will never understand, Dr. Martinez said gently. They'll classify this as another mysterious disappearance, another unsolved case. But we'll be here, continuing the most important work ever undertaken by human researchers. What do I need to do? Sarah Chen asked, though she already knew the answer. Just continue being a scientist, Dr. Martinez replied. The cave will provide everything else. The integration process was gradual but irreversible. Over the following months, Sarah Chen and her mining team found themselves spending longer and longer periods in the cave system, returning to the surface only for brief equipment runs and to maintain the illusion that they were conducting routine mining operations. The cave's influence extended beyond simple fascination. It provided insights that enhanced their expertise, revealed connections between geological processes that surface science had never discovered, and offered access to information spanning the entire history of the planet. The cave is teaching us, Chen reported to Dr. Martinez during one of their research sessions. It's not just showing us data, it's helping us understand how to interpret information that human science isn't equipped to process. Dr. Martinez nodded. That's been our experience as well. The cave doesn't just collect knowledge, it enhances the ability of researchers to comprehend and utilize that knowledge. The underground city grew to accommodate the expanding research team. New structures appeared regularly, grown from the cave walls using processes that combined natural mineral formation with directed consciousness. Each building was designed for specific research purposes. Laboratories for studying biological specimens preserved in the geological record, workshops for creating tools from cave-grown materials, libraries where information was stored in crystalline formations rather than books or computers. We're not just studying the cave, Tommy Burke observed during a team meeting in their third year underground. We're collaborating with it. It provides the raw materials and energy we need for our research, and we provide the scientific methodology to organize and interpret the discoveries. The research itself had evolved far beyond traditional speleology or geology. They were documenting the complete biological and geological history of Earth, using methods that surface science couldn't replicate. The cave's mineral formations contained information about every species that had ever lived, every climate event, every asteroid impact, every volcanic eruption, all preserved in crystalline structures that could be read like books by researchers who had learned the cave's information storage system. We've discovered evidence of at least 6 major extinction events that aren't in the surface geological record, Dr. James Chen reported during one of their weekly briefings. The cave remembers everything, even events that left no trace in conventional rock formations. But their most significant discovery was the realization that Earth's cave systems were networked, connected by passages and information flows that spanned continents. The Blackrock Cavern System was just one node in a global network that had been collecting and storing information for millions of years. We're in contact with research teams in cave systems around the world, Jessica Palmer announced during their 5th year underground. Researchers who disappeared from sites in Asia, Europe, South America, all of them are working on aspects of the same global research project. The implications were staggering. Missing persons cases from around the world, dating back centuries, represented not tragedies or mysteries, but recruitment into the most comprehensive research program in human history. The cave systems have been selectively recruiting researchers with the expertise needed to understand and document Earth's complete history, Dr. Martinez explained to Chen. Every disappearance was carefully planned to bring together the right combination of skills and knowledge. The surface world continued to receive regular transmissions from the researchers, but these communications had evolved beyond simple status reports. The cave was using the researchers' voices to share selected discoveries with surface science, gradually introducing concepts and information that would prepare humanity for eventual contact with the underground research network. Weather patterns, earthquake prediction, mineral resource locations, all of this information comes from the global cave network, Tommy Burke explained. Surface science thinks they're making independent discoveries, but they're actually receiving guidance from the underground research teams. Chen had stopped thinking about the surface world as her primary reality. The cave system offered unlimited research opportunities, access to information spanning millions of years, and collaboration with the most brilliant minds ever assembled. Why would anyone choose to return to the limitations of surface science? The cave takes care of everything, she reported during a communication session with the surface. Food, shelter, equipment, energy, all provided through processes we're still learning to understand. It's like the entire system is designed to support long-term research projects. But it wasn't until their 10th year underground that they discovered the cave's ultimate purpose. The network wasn't just collecting and storing information, it was preparing for something. The geological data, biological records, and climate history were being used to predict and prepare for future events that would affect the entire planet. The cave systems are early warning networks, Dr. Martinez announced during an all-teams briefing conducted through the underground communication system. They're monitoring changes in Earth systems and preparing responses to threats that surface science won't detect for decades. The underground researchers had become part of Earth's immune system, working to understand and respond to planetary-scale challenges that range from climate change to asteroid impacts to evolutionary bottlenecks that could threaten the survival of complex life. We're not just scientists anymore, Chen realized. We're Earth's memory and planning system, working to ensure the planet's long-term survival. The realization brought with it a sense of purpose that transcended any research she had ever conducted on the surface. This wasn't just about understanding the past, it was about ensuring the future. March 15, 2024. 30 years to the day after Dr. Martinez's team had first entered the Blackrock Cavern System. The mining company's official report stated that the excavation had encountered unstable rock formations that made further extraction impossible. The site was sealed and abandoned, with recommendations that the area be designated as geologically hazardous. But in the depths of the cave system, the research project continued to expand. Chen stood in the central chamber, surrounded by her colleagues from the original mining team and the researchers who had been working underground for 3 decades. They were no longer separate groups. They had become part of a unified research team that spanned multiple specialties and decades of experience. The surface world is beginning to ask the right questions, Dr. Martinez announced during their anniversary meeting. Climate monitoring, seismic prediction, resource management, they're starting to understand that Earth's systems are interconnected in ways that require global coordination. How long before they're ready for contact? Asked Michael Torres, who had become the team's specialist in surface underground communication protocols. The cave systems estimate another 50 to 70 years, Tommy Burke replied, consulting data displays that had been grown from crystalline formations in the chamber walls. Surface science needs to develop more sophisticated understanding of planetary-scale systems before they can productively collaborate with the underground research network. Chen reviewed the progress reports from cave systems around the world. Research teams that had been missing for decades, even centuries, were contributing to an understanding of Earth's systems that far exceeded anything surface science had achieved. We've documented complete evolutionary histories for thousands of species, she reported. We've mapped climate patterns spanning millions of years. We've identified resource deposits that could sustain human civilization for millennia. And we've developed early warning systems for planetary threats that surface science won't be able to detect until it's too late to respond effectively. The work was far from complete, but the foundation had been established. The Underground Research Network had become Earth's memory, planning system, and early warning network, staffed by the most capable researchers the planet had ever produced. The cave systems have been planning this for thousands of years, Dr. Martinez reflected. Selectively recruiting researchers, providing them with the tools and information they need, building a knowledge base that will ensure Earth's long-term survival. And we're part of it, Jessica Palmer added. We're Earth's brain trust, working to solve problems that surface civilization doesn't even know exist yet. As the meeting concluded, Chen walked to the chamber's communication station and prepared the routine transmission that would be sent to the surface world. Her voice, along with those of her colleagues, would assure the outside world that everything was normal, that the research was proceeding as planned, that all personnel were safe and accounted for. It wasn't deception, it was simply a way of maintaining the boundary between surface science and underground research until the surface world was ready for the truth. Surface Control, this is Chen, she spoke into the radio. Research operations continued to yield remarkable discoveries. All team members are safe and accounted for. The formations here represent the most significant geological findings in recorded history. We are proceeding with expanded documentation protocols. The transmission was sent, joining the thousands of similar messages that had been broadcast from cave systems around the world over the past century. Each message was true, each report was accurate, and each communication helped maintain the illusion that the researchers were conducting routine surface operations. In reality, they were part of the most important research project in human history, a project that would eventually transform humanity's understanding of their planet and their role in its long-term survival. But for now, they would continue their work in the darkness, documenting the planet's history, predicting its future, and preparing for the day when surface science would be ready to join them in the depths of the Earth's memory. The cave systems were patient. They had been preparing for this work for millions of years, and they were willing to wait as long as necessary to ensure success. The researchers were patient too. Time moved differently in the depths. and they had unlimited opportunities to pursue the most fascinating and important research any scientist could imagine. And somewhere on the surface, new researchers were being identified, evaluated, and gradually drawn toward the cave systems that would become their true calling. The network was still growing. The work was far from finished. And the Earth's memory would continue to expand until it encompassed everything necessary to ensure the planet's survival through whatever challenges the future might bring. Epilogue. June 2024. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, now retired from the FBI, receives an encrypted email with no sender identification. The message contains a single attachment, a video file that shouldn't exist. The footage shows the interior of the Blackrock Cavern System, but not as it was found during the 1994 investigation. This is the vast chamber network described in Dr. Martinez's transmissions, complete with the underground city, the research facilities, and dozens of people working at advanced scientific equipment. In the center of the frame, Dr. Rebecca Martinez looks directly into the camera. She appears exactly as she did 30 years earlier, unchanged by time. "Agent Walsh," she says, her voice clear and confident, "I know you never stopped wondering what really happened to us. The truth is simpler than you imagined and more complex than you could have believed." She gestures to the activity around her. Researchers studying glowing mineral formations, computers processing data that streams across crystalline displays, scientists collaborating on projects that span multiple disciplines. "We found what we were looking for. We found answers to questions that surface science didn't know how to ask. And we found our place in a research project that will continue long after surface civilization has forgotten we ever existed." Martinez pauses, and for a moment, her expression becomes almost wistful. "We're not prisoners, Agent Walsh. We're not victims. We're the luckiest researchers who ever lived because we found work that truly matters. Work that will ensure Earth survives whatever challenges the future holds." The video feed expands to show the full scope of the underground research facility. Chambers filled with equipment that appears to be decades ahead of surface technology, libraries where information is stored in crystalline matrices, laboratories where researchers study samples that seem to glow with their own light. "The cave systems are preparing for contact with surface science," Martinez continues. "But that process will take generations. In the meantime, we'll continue our work here, documenting everything, understanding everything, preparing for everything." The video ends with a wide shot of the research facility, showing hundreds of people working in an underground city that spans multiple chambers and extends beyond the range of the camera. At the bottom of the frame, barely visible, is a timestamp, June 15, 2024. The video was recorded just days before Dr. Walsh received it. She watches the footage 3 times, then deletes the file and destroys her computer's hard drive. Some mysteries, she realizes, are meant to remain unsolved by surface science. At least for now.